Welcome to the latest edition of the LL Football Roundtable, brought to you by the fine folks at Auto House of Lancaster. We're going to talk District 3 championship games. We have a few of them with involving Lancaster 11 League teams. I'm Mike Gross, and I'm hosting. To my left is Jason Guarente. To my right is Jeffrey Reinhart. And we're going to start with, we do have one game that involves two Lancaster 11 League teams for the 4A title. Why I'm missing in Lampeter Strasburg.
Yes.
Jeffrey, you covered the first one, and
Yes.
you're going to cover this one.
Yes.
Meeting between these two teams.
Yes.
I mean,
They just played in week 10.
Yes.
A couple of weeks ago. They're very familiar with
and it was
each other.
20-7, correct?
Correct. LS won 20-7. YO's lone touchdown came on a short field after a really short tipped punt. They only had to go 15 yards to score. Take that away, and LS really dominated. They held YO to 140 rushing yards, 3 yards a carry. LS played really well. They had a pick. House rushed for 100 and a touchdown. Dominic Brown rushed for 100 and a touchdown. And LS did LS things. They got a couple of field goals from Fiorello. And that's kind of been their MO. They have a lot of guys who make plays. They fly to the ball and stuff you on D. And they got a really good special teams with Fiorello. They've been playing great. LS 1 seed, here they are.
So let me ask you this, Jason. This is a completely unfair question.
Okay,
so
I'm looking forward to it.
Naturally, I turn to you. Why I'm missing got pretty much shut down by the LS defense in the first meeting. We know what they're going to do offensively, right? We know that not only the scheme, we know the plays they're going to run. So what's plan B for LS? Can they look at the film and is there enough in their offense where they could go different wrinkles? And
I think stopping the wing T is just about personnel. I don't think it's about scheme. I think you have the players to do it or you don't. And LS has the players to stop
do it. That's what I'm saying.
And most teams don't. I don't know.
Is there a plan B for why I'm missing?
I don't think so. They run. I mean, they're kind of like Cocalico in the sense
kind of my
that
point.
they run
it's hard
what.
To see.
But they could do it better.
Yeah,
they could
they could
block
do it better.
They could open a small hole, and Justice Hardy could break a 60-yard run. He was 12 for 49 in the first game, which is he usually piles up more than that. I mean, you can always execute better than you did.
Yeah.
I don't know that they changed much. I mean, Why I'm Missing hasn't changed anything for how many years?
Yeah,
Decades.
and that's the thing. It can't be as simple as I'm making it sound because Why I'm Missing has been doing it successfully, incredibly successfully for 100 years.
Even in that first game, in the fourth quarter, when YO had to come back, they're running toss, buck sweeps, and they're running fullback traps. So they've had their moments passing the ball.
Well, YO will pass the ball if you're doing something, like if you're really walking the safeties down, like doing something like that, like 9 in the box, 10 in the box, then they'll throw it. But otherwise,
they do what they do, and they're probably not going to change it. Much like Cocalico, this is the third week in a row LS is getting a Section 4 rival in this bracket. They beat Elko, they beat Twin Valley, and now they're playing YO.
And I always think it's difficult to meet these teams in the playoffs that you've already sort of dismissed in the regular season. But it doesn't seem difficult for this team.
No, they took care of Twin Valley
They've just
last
been
week.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, they're on a mission.
They're really something.
This is a different animal, though.
Yeah.
This is the best of those three, and I wonder when the last time someone beat YO twice in the same season.
All right. There is that.
YO doesn't often lose 2 games in a season, so two to the same team would be something.
Fascinating matchup.
It
that
really
should be
is.
good. That should be good.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens here.
That game is at Warwick on the turf in Lidditz on Friday.
All right, in 6A, the championship game is Wilson, and they got a big test here in Harrisburg. Jason Guarente.
Rematch of the 2021 final, which it started Harrisburg's run of 3 consecutive district titles. That was a great game. It was 14-10. Wilson stayed with them to the end. You remember Cam Jones, who used to return kicks for touchdowns? Like he was this close to breaking one at the end to win the game, and Harrisburg held on, and that started these 3 straight district titles for Harrisburg. To me, it's about Harrisburg's athleticism. That's what everybody says, but not just in the skill players, but up front. Those 10-yard runs you usually get turned into 3-yard runs. You know, the breakaway runs turn into 10-yard runs. They don't give up anything big. And then on the flip side, they put up big plays.
Yeah, they do.
And you have to do both. You have to be able to generate some of those big plays and stop them. And when it gets to this time of the year, no one's quite able to do that. They could do one maybe, but they can't do both. It's at Exeter, which is essentially a home game for Wilson, very close. Wilson has lost one game. They're the Section 1 champions. You don't count them out.
Nope.
But, I mean, Harrisburg's the favorite until someone wins. The LL has not won 6A since 2017, which was Manheim Township's title. This has been the Mid-Penn's territory.
It has.
And this is a chance for the LL, an original LL team in Wilson, to take that back.
Harrisburg is sneaky. A lot of Division I recruits. They have a lot of guys that Penn State is targeting, which is, of course, I pay attention to that, and so there's a lot of talent there.
Kevin Brown, O-line, is back. He was injured, missed a bunch of games.
And he's one of the ones.
He's committed, and Messiah Mickens, the running back.
He's committed.
He's
committed to Penn State.
He's having an unbelievable two-way season. He's right around 1,000 rushing yards, and D-end, he's been wow. He's got like almost 30 tackles for loss, 13 or 14 sacks. I mean, he's in the backfield constantly. So you mentioned athletes.
He's really grown up physically in the last couple of years. I mean, people were talking about him when he was in 8th grade, but he's a different animal now.
Yeah, he's having a great season. So tall task for Wilson. Can they do it? Sure. But the Cougars have dominated here the last 3-4 years in this bracket.
Harrisburg would be the lowest seed to win 6A as a 4 seed since it started in 2016. It's been the 1, 2, and 3s that have won. Some of the other classifications have had underdogs sneak through, Cocalico famously, but this has been the bracket where the big dogs.
Part of that is that they somehow lost to Cumberland Valley late in the regular season.
Fell to 4.
It's hard to believe. All right, 5A. This is the last one on the docket. Exeter, Bishop McDevitt. Familiar name there.
Exeter back, 3rd time in 4 years in a title game for Exeter. By the way, they got their payback last week. They kept their amped up feelings under control, and they beat CV pretty handily. Sandier rushed for 260 and 4 touchdowns and went over 2,000. Yep. He's had an unbelievable season. McDevitt. Hey, McDevitt's in the finals, believe it or not. 21st championship for McDevitt. They've won 17.
Is this the first one in 5A?
Yes.
I guess it would
Good point. They've all been in 3 and 4. A win, and McDevitt ties Manheim Central with 18 district championships. So a lot riding here for McDevitt. Let's mention Stone Saunders. Why not? 13,300 passing yards. Wow. 197 touchdowns.
He's been playing for 4 years.
4 years
Kentucky
starter.
Commit. He was a big-time Division I recruit.
Yep, and we don't have to remind you of McDevitt's pedigree here.
For the crowd that Exeter can't win this game, let's look at some 5A history, shall we? Governor Mifflin, 3 years ago, Nick Singleton's senior year. No one's beaten Mifflin. They have Nick Singleton. Mifflin's the best team in 5A. Exeter stuns them after getting blown out during the regular season by Mifflin. The following year, Exeter was the #1 seed. They had a lot of those kids back. They were the huge favorite. 12 seed Cocalico goes into Rifton and wins. No one saw that coming. This has been the game which has shocked us before, and I would say Exeter winning would be less of a surprise to me anyway than those other 2 games, because look at their resume, 580 some points scored, 123 points allowed. They're a 2-point conversion from being 13-0.
Yeah.
This is a great team, and I know McDevitt's, it's apples and oranges, public versus private, and we could go down that rabbit hole, but this is the game we have, and I think you'd be remiss to count out Exeter in this one.
Good point, yeah. Exeter's been really, really good. Both sides of the ball, I mean, they've been
And again, like Wilson, it seems like they've gotten better as the years gone on.
They have, and you just look and you say, the 8th? They're the 8th seed?
Yeah, they're not an 8 seed.
They're not.
Yeah, the seeds in 5A were too bizarre to even
And Manheim Central almost took out McDevitt last year in a game where no one thought
in the 4th quarter.
probably should have won that.
no one thought the LL could win that
This
game.
will probably be closer than we all
I think it will
think
be.
it will. Yeah.
So anyway, this is district titles in the line, berths in the state playoffs on the line,
Yep, state
all of
semis.
that coming up this weekend. The 5A game, by the way, is at Elko.
At
right?
Elko. Yeah,
that's
that's
that.
a cool
Again, for
facility.
the LL League, the higher seed, whatever. Okay. For the good of the order,
Yes, sir.
coaching changes or coaching openings, let's say.
Yes. We're like not even a month out from the end of the regular season, and there's 4 vacancies already. John Brubaker stepped down at Penn Manor, former longtime Manheim Central assistant. Keith Stokes stepped down at E-Town after 3 years. Brady Mathias stepped down at Columbia after 3 years. Matt Hoffert at Hamburg stepped down after 3 years. So those guys must have been on 3-year plans for where they were at in their careers. But four vacancies already in less than a month?
Yeah.
Does that raise any flags
Well,
for you guys?
I think, there's going to be some of that. There's going to be some of guys rethinking their situations right after the season's over, especially if it's an unsuccessful season. But none of those have been filled, and we'll see going forward.
We shall.
We got a state championship to mention.
2.
Bring it.
2.
Lancaster Mennonite boys soccer Class 1A champions defeated Bentworth 1-0 in overtime. Warwick field hockey Class 2A champions 4-0. Not even a competitive game. Warwick just marched through. First championship in 24 years for Warwick. You kind of think of them as, they win it all the time. It had been a generation, and they're back on top.
Yeah, even when they were a mega dynasty, they didn't win. They weren't like reeling off state titles, and you can't help but think of the late Bob Durr, who passed away just days before the semifinal and then the final.
What a story
thing for Warwick field hockey.
That's a pretty amazing story. Congrats to those kids. State championships in Pennsylvania at any class, any sport is a big deal.
All right, gang, that's it. District finals coming. We'll talk about it next week. But for now, that's it. This has been the LL Football Roundtable, brought to you by Auto House of Lancaster. For Jason and for Jeff and for Mike, we'll see you later.